You raise your right hand, cold already, and repeat the words, Watcher on the walls, shield that guards the realms of men. Something about honor, something about darkness, something about giving up basically every good thing life has to offer forever. Congratulations, you are now a brother of the Night's Watch. You will never marry, never have children, never inherit land, never really see your family again. Also, you're about to freeze to death slowly over the next few decades, assuming something faster doesn't get to you first. Great start. You arrive at Castle Black expecting an army of grizzled heroes defending the realm. Instead, you find about 600 men, and roughly half of them are here because a judge gave them a choice between this and losing a hand. The other half are here because nobody else wanted them. You are not the exception. This is your new family, and your new family includes a man who was sent here for setting fire to his neighbor's cottage, allegedly by accident, 3 separate times, and another who genuinely cannot remember which crime got him sent north, which is somehow worse. Before any of the danger even starts, there's the actual day-to-day of it, which nobody warns you about either. Someone has to chop the firewood, someone has to muck out the stables, someone has to climb down into the ice cells to empty out whatever's been left there, and that someone is disproportionately you, because seniority in this organization is mostly measured in how few chores you can get away with skipping. You spend your first month doing more manual labor than actual fighting, and you start to realize that most of the men who die here don't die in some grand last stand. They die tired, cold, and covered in someone else's laundry. Training starts immediately, and it is not designed to build you up. It is designed to find out how many ways your body can betray you before something actually kills you. You spar in a courtyard with a wooden sword against men twice your size, and the first lesson is simple. Getting hit hurts more than you think it will, and nobody stops the match just because you're bleeding. Your instructor is a former smuggler with a limp and zero patience, and his teaching method is mostly just letting bigger recruits hit you until you figure out how to stop that from happening. Some recruits don't figure it out fast enough. A broken collarbone here, a shattered kneecap there, and one poor kid takes a blow to the head hard enough that he's never quite right again. Nobody sends him home. He just gets reassigned to peeling potatoes, permanently, staring at the wall a little longer each day, occasionally asking a passing brother what year it is. Then there's the wall itself, which you're expected to climb, on ropes, in the wind, with ice forming on your gloves faster than you can shake it off. The winch cage is for supplies and the elderly. Everyone else earns their view. You watch a recruit 2 seasons ahead of you lose his grip about halfway up during a routine climb. There's no dramatic scream, no last words, just a sudden absence where a person used to be, and a very long pause before anyone at the bottom starts walking toward what's left. The climb continues the next day. It always continues the next day. The cold is its own opponent, and it never stops fighting. Castle Black sits at the base of the wall, 700 feet of solid ice, and the wind coming off it doesn't care how tough you think you are. Frostbite eats fingers and toes on a schedule. You've seen brothers lose a thumb overnight, just from an unlucky watch shift. No drama, no last words, just black fingertips by morning, and a quiet trip to the Maester's tower. Sickness moves through the barracks like it's got somewhere to be. A cough turns into a fever, the fever turns into something in your lungs, and within a week, the man who slept 2 bunks over is being carried out, wrapped in a blanket that isn't coming back. Nobody throws you a funeral. You get a name carved into a wall of 1,000 other names, and the watch moves on, because the watch always moves on. You survive your first winter. Congratulations. That alone puts you ahead of a meaningful percentage of your brothers. But surviving the cold just means you live long enough to be given a real job, and the jobs get worse from here. Some of you get assigned to hunting parties, sent into the haunted forest south of the wall to bring back game before the last of the stores run out. This sounds almost pleasant compared to everything else. It is not pleasant. The forest doesn't just have wildlife in it, and the things that aren't wildlife don't always announce themselves. A hunting party of 6 goes out one gray morning and only 2 come back, dragging a third who doesn't survive the walk home. Nobody who returns wants to talk about what actually happened out there, and the ones who do talk get quietly avoided at meals, because apparently that's worse for morale than just not knowing. You volunteer for latrine duty instead the next time hunting parties are announced. Nobody blames you for it. Rangers ride out beyond the wall to scout, and rangers have the shortest life expectancy in the entire organization. You get assigned to a ranging party of 20, riding out into forest that swallows sound and swallows people. Wildling raiders know this land better than you ever will, and they don't fight fair, because why would they? An arrow from the tree line takes the man riding beside you clean off his horse before anyone even hears the shot. You dig in, you fight, you lose 4 more brothers before the raiders melt back into the woods like they were never there. You bury what's left of your friends in ground so frozen you need a full day just to break the surface. The official report back at the castle lists it as a minor skirmish. 4 men. Minor. Desertion is its own special kind of death sentence, and here's the part that stings. You don't even have to be the one who deserts. You just have to be standing next to the wrong conversation at the wrong time. A recruit 2 bunks down starts talking, quietly, about slipping south, about how nobody would even notice one more missing brother. You laugh it off. You do not report it, because reporting a friend feels wrong, and this is the last time you make that particular mistake. He vanishes a week later. They catch him 3 days after that, half-starved, hiding in a hollowed-out log like that was ever going to work. The Lord Commander doesn't believe in second chances, because second chances get everyone else killed. The whole garrison is ordered out into the yard to watch. No trial beyond the one sentence already spoken by everyone who's ever taken this oath. The blade comes down, and you are required to watch every second of it, because that's the lesson. That's always the lesson. You spend that whole night wondering if anyone noticed you laughing along a week earlier. If you're stationed at the castle long enough, eventually the danger stops coming to you in small parties and starts coming all at once. Wildling warbands don't just raid ranging parties in the woods. Sometimes they come for the castle itself, in numbers nobody prepared for, backed by things twice the height of a grown man swinging tree trunks like clubs. You man the top of the wall during one of these assaults, dropping stones and boiling oil on climbers scaling ropes in the dark, and for every attacker you knock loose, 2 more take their place. A brother beside you takes a thrown axe to the chest and goes over the edge without so much as a shout, 700 feet down, gone before he even understands what happened. You hold the line because the alternative is not holding the line, and by dawn the snow at the base of the wall is more red than white. You survived. So did maybe half of the men who started that watch with you. Command itself isn't safe either, and this is the part recruits never see coming. Loyalty inside the watch is thinner than anyone likes to admit, especially after a string of failed rangings and a winter that keeps refusing to end. You hear whispers before it happens, the kind you've learned to take seriously by now. A faction of brothers, half-starved, half-frozen, and fully convinced their commanders are marching them toward pointless deaths, decide they'd rather not march anywhere else. It happens at night, at a supply camp deep in hostile territory, and it happens fast. Knives that were meant for wildlings end up in the tents of the men giving the orders instead. By morning, the chain of command has been rewritten in blood, and the survivors scatter in every direction, some running south toward the only home most of them still remember, some running north into exactly the kind of danger they were supposedly fleeing. Mutiny doesn't just kill the men in charge. It kills the last bit of structure standing between you and everything the wall was built to keep out. You'd think the worst part of this job would be other men. You'd be wrong, and you're about to find out exactly how wrong. North of the wall, something has been stirring for longer than anyone in Castle Black wants to admit. The old stories get told around the fire like a joke, the kind of thing recruits whisper to scare each other on a first watch. Then the stories stop being funny. A ranging party goes out and doesn't come back on schedule. A second party goes out to find them and doesn't come back either. When the third party finally locates the first, they find the missing men arranged in a perfect, deliberate spiral in the snow, limbs bent at angles a human body was never meant to bend at, and every single one of them stripped of their weapons like whatever did this was making a point. You are on watch, the night the temperature drops in a way that has nothing to do with weather. The torches gutter for no reason. Your breath freezes mid-air and just hangs there, and then you see them, pale figures moving through the trees with a silence that no living thing should be capable of, eyes burning a blue so cold it looks like it hurts to exist. Steel doesn't work on them, no matter how well it was forged or how many years the man swinging it has trained. You watch a brother swing a perfectly good sword straight through one of these things and watch it shatter on impact like it was never steel at all. Fire works. Fire is the only thing that reliably works, and you don't always have fire ready when they decide to show up, which they always do at the worst possible hour. Here's the part that should really ruin your week. Every brother who dies out here, human or otherwise, doesn't necessarily stay dead. The cold does something to bodies out this far north, something that has nothing to do with rot. You've heard the accounts, and you've eventually seen it yourself. A dead man opens his eyes hours after his heart's already stopped, gets up off the table he was laid out on, and starts trying to kill the people who were about to bury him. So even dying honorably beyond the wall comes with a catch. Your death might not be the end of your usefulness to whatever's out there. It might just be the beginning of someone else's very bad night, possibly your own bunkmates. You start noticing the small tells that a normal ranging has stopped being normal. Rangers start posting double watches, even in camps that used to be considered safe. Nobody says the word out loud, but everyone's sleeping with a torch within arm's reach now, just in case the fire goes out and something decides that's an invitation. A brother you've known for years starts flinching at every gust of wind through the trees, and you don't blame him, because you've started doing it too. The largest ranging in the Watch's living memory sets out to find out, once and for all, what's actually organizing these attacks. Hundreds of men march north, further than any patrol has gone in generations, and they make camp on a rocky hilltop that looks defensible from every angle. It is not defensible from the angle that matters. The temperature drops the way it always drops now, sudden and wrong, and by the time anyone reacts, the camp is already surrounded, torches guttering out in a wind that shouldn't be able to reach them. What's left the next morning is scattered gear, broken weapons, and almost no bodies at all, because the dead don't stay behind anymore. They get up and walk north with everyone else. A search party sent out weeks later finds exactly 4 survivors, and every one of them stops speaking entirely for the rest of their lives. You weren't on that ranging. You knew 11 men who were. Then comes the kind of night that ends careers, ends garrisons, ends whatever optimism you had left about surviving this job. A full ranging expedition, hundreds of men and free folk both, gathers at a coastal outpost far north of everything, evacuating civilians who've spent their whole lives fleeing exactly this threat. The plan is orderly. The plan lasts about as long as plans usually do out here. The temperature crashes. The horns sound, once for wildlings, twice for the watch. And then, from somewhere out past the tree line, a third horn call that nobody has heard in living memory. Long and low and absolutely final. Every head on that beach turns at once, and what's walking out of the tree line isn't hundreds. It's an army, stretching back farther than torchlight can reach, and it is not here to negotiate. You do the math the way everyone on that beach is doing the math, and the math does not work in your favor. Boats fill faster than order can be maintained. People you've spent years training beside are trampling each other to get to the last available space, because dying with dignity stopped being on the table the moment that third horn sounded. You watch men who survived years of rangings, mutinies, wildling ambushes, and frostbite get overrun in minutes by something that doesn't tire, doesn't negotiate, and doesn't stop. The ones who fall don't stay down for long, and that's the actual nightmare. They get back up, and now they're coming for the people who were trying to save them 10 minutes earlier. If you make it off that beach, you don't really win. You watch it happen from a boat, helpless, while a commander who has survived more of this than anyone deserves to raises his arms toward the enemy in what almost looks like a challenge. It isn't answered with a fight. It's answered by every single body on that beach, rising back up at once, thousands of them, standing in perfect unison like puppets, remembering how to walk. You sail away from that having lost more brothers in a single night than the watch usually loses in a decade, and you understand, finally, completely, that everything you trained for, every lesson from that first courtyard beating, was preparing you for a threat that doesn't care about training at all. So let's tally up how you actually go, statistically speaking, as a brother of the Night's Watch. Best case, you freeze quietly in your sleep, sometime in your 50s, and someone remembers to carve your name before the memory of you fades entirely. More likely, you catch an arrow from a tree line you never saw, or lose your grip on an icy rope halfway up 700 feet of wall, or take a blade from a man you called brother the night before because the chain of command finally snapped. Worse than that, you go out on a routine hunting trip and simply don't come back, and nobody ever finds enough of you to carve a proper marker. Worst case, and increasingly the likely case, you die beyond the wall in the cold and the dark, and death isn't even the finish line anymore. It's a reassignment. Compare that to the men who took a different oath, the ones who stayed south, married, had children, argued about taxes and inheritance and whatever else people with actual futures argue about. They get old. They get buried once. You don't get either of those things, and the worst part is, you volunteered for it, or got volunteered for it by a judge who didn't love your other options either. Either way, you signed up to guard a wall against a threat most of the realm still treats as a bedtime story, and the realm is going to keep treating it that way right up until the night that threat shows up at their door instead of yours. Remember that oath you took at the very beginning, the one about being the shield that guards the realms of men. Nobody mentioned that the thing you're shielding everyone from is currently recruiting from your own casualty list. You watched the walls. The walls did not watch back.